Hello, my name is Mayanka. I am accounts and finance trainer from Uplatz. Today we will cover the topic of refund. We will discuss part 3 of refund in which we will discuss some other relevant points which are relating to the concept of refund. The refund is one of the important topic under the GST in which we will discuss how we can claim the amount of refund and how we can take the refund. Means we will discuss the procedure of refund and we will also discuss in the respect of which the refund is applicable, in the respect of which the refund is applicable, and when the amount of the refund is available. What are the time limit for making the refund? And we have also discussed all other relevant provisions which are relating to the refund. Now we will start part 3 of refund. Refunds part 3. Refund under the GST. E-refund of unutilized ITC. Now we will discuss the refund of the unutilized ITC. When the amount of the ITC is not utilized, when the amount of ITC is not utilized, in this case the taxpayer the taxpayer has an has an option. He has an option that he can take the refund of such unutilized amount of ITC. He can he can make an application for the refund of such unused amount of ITC. Unused amount of ITC. Number 1. Now we will discuss the procedure and the concept relating to the unused amount of ITC. Number 1. Accumulation of input tax credit. Accumulation of ITC. Accumulation of input tax credit. Accumulation of input tax credit happens when the tax paid on input is more than the output liability. Accumulation of input tax credit happens when tax the amount of the tax which is paid on the inputs is more than the output tax liability. For the example, Mr. Ram supplies some goods from Mr. Shah and on which he has paid the amount of tax. Let's say the amount of tax is rupees 20,000 rupees. Is the amount of tax is 20,000. After the purchasing or after the supplying, he supplies such goods to Mr. Mohan. He supplies such goods to Mr. Mohan and he charged the amount of tax, means the amount of GST to Mr. Mohan, means output tax liability. Output tax liability which is charged means the amount of GST which is charged from the Mohan is 10,000 only. So in this case, the amount of input tax credit is 20,000 and the amount of output tax liability is only 10,000. So this situation is to be known as accumulation of input tax credit. Such situation where the amount of input tax credit is more than the output tax liability, this situation is to be known as then this situation is to be known as accumulation of input tax credit. Such accumulation will have to be carried over. Such accumulation will have to be carried over to the next financial year till such time as it can be utilized by the registered person for the payment of output tax. such a accumulated amount of ITC can be carried forward. It can be carried over the next period. Means for the next tax period or next financial year, we can carry forward it, or we can utilize such amount for the payment of output tax liability. Is that, as per the example, such 10,000 rupees can be utilized for the payment of output tax liability in the next financial year. However, the GST law permit a refund of unutilized ITC at the end of the tax period in two scenarios. Is that the GST law permit the refund. The GST law permit the refund of permit it permit the refund of the unutilized amount of ITC at the end of the tax period in the two scenarios or in the two conditions, namely, if the credit accumulation is on the account of zero credit supply. If such a credit accumulation is such a credit accumulation is on the account of zero rated supply, or on the account of inverted duty structure subject to the certain exception. In 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 such case in such a case, the electronic credit ledger account is to be debited. In such case, the electronic credit ledger is to be debited by the applicant by the amount equal to the refund. So claim is that when the application for the refund claim is made by the applicant, in this case he will in this case he will or such a refund is relating to the unutilized ITC. In this case, the applicant will debit the electronic credit ledger. He will debit the electronic credit ledger, and such amount of the electronic credit ledger will be debited by the amount which is equal to the amount of refund which is claimed by such person. For the example, the electronic credit ledger balance is 20,000 rupees, and 20,000 rupees, and such 10,000 is relating to the ITC, which is relating to the account of zero rated supply, and such a taxpayer want to take the refund of such unutilized ITC. The then For the purpose of this, he has submit an application for the refund claim. In this case, he will, in this case, the taxpayer will debit the electronic cash ledger account by rupees 10,000. By rupees 10,000. So now the balance of the electronic credit ledger. So the balance of the electronic credit ledger is only 10,000. It is only 10,000 rupees. Now we will discuss cases where refund of unutilized ITC is applicable. Now we will discuss the cases where the refund of unutilized ITC is applicable. As per section 54 subsection 3, a registered person may claim the refund. As per section 54 subsection 3, a registered person may claim refund of any unutilized ITC at the end of any tax period. In the following cases. Means in the following cases, the unused amount of ITC can be refunded. Means a registered person can make an application for the refund such claim for the refund such amount of unutilized ITC. Such application is to be made by the person at the end of any tax period. Means the application can be filed by the application can be filed by the person, by the registered person at the end of any tax period. Now we will discuss the cases in which a refund application for any unutilized ITC can be made. Number one, zero rated supply without the payment of tax. Zero rated supply. When the zero rated supply is made without the payment of tax, without the without the payment of tax. Zero rated supply has been made without the payment of tax. Supply of goods and services or both. When there is any supply of goods, supply of services or both to the SEZ developer, to the SEZ unit or there is the export of goods, export of services or both. When there is any supply of goods, there is any supply of services or both, and there is export of goods, export of services or both under the under the bond under the bond or letter of undertaking LUT under the bond or under the letter of undertaking without the payment of IGST, without the payment of IGST, subject to such condition, safeguards and procedure as may be prescribed. Are zero rated supply without the payment of tax. There is the such it is to be known as zero rated supply without the payment of tax. In such case the refund of unutilized ITC. In such case the amount of unutilized ITC, the unutilized ITC can be claimed for refund at the end of any of the tax period. Any of the tax period. In such case, the refund of unutilized ITC can be claimed at any of the tax period, and the amount is to be determined under rule 89 sub rule 4 shall be granted to the applicant, and the electronic credit ledger shall be debited by the applicant by the amount which is equal to the refund so claim. The amount of electronic cash ledger will be reduced by the amount which is equal to the refund so claim. So in the case of zero rated supply which is made without the payment of tax, the amount of unutilized ITC, the amount of unutilized amount of ITC can be claimed, means can be refund, can we make the application for refund at the end of any tax period, at the end of any tax period. Number 2, inverted duty structure. Inverted duty structure. The term inverted duty structure refers to a situation where the rate of the tax on the inputs is higher than the rate of tax on output. Is that the inverted duty structure is a situation where where the rate of tax, where the rate of GST on the inputs which are used for the purpose of for the purpose of production of outputs. So the rate of the GST tax on the inputs is higher than the rate of tax on the output. For the example, Mr. Ram purchase such some inputs for the production of some output. The rates on the input is 28%. The rate of GST on input is 28% and the rate on the output is 18%. So it is to be known as inverted duty structure. As a result, higher tax paid on the input get accumulated in the electronic credit ledger of the taxpayer. Due to this, the amount of the ITC will be accumulated. The amount of ITC will be accumulated in the electronic credit ledger of the taxpayer. It will be accumulated. Supplier who supply goods to the merchant exporter at the concessional rate of 0.1%. Supplier who supplying goods to the merchant exporter at the concessional rate of 0.1% means 0.05% CGST and 0.05% SGST or UTGST or 1% IGST as the case may be. Under the notification number 40 2017, under the notification number 40 2017, CT registered CTR dated 30 dated 23 October 2017. Notification number 41 2017 ITR dated 23rd October 2017. Subject to the certain condition, subject to the certain conditions which are specified in the said notification 14. Import and export under GST are also eligible for refund on the account of inverted tax structure. Supply of specified goods or services where refund of unutilized ITC on account of inverted duty structure is not allowed. Supply of specified goods or specified services where refund of unutilized ITC on account of inverted duty structure is not allowed. The government may, on the recommendation of GST Council, the government may, on the recommendation of GST Council, notify supply of certain goods, services, or both. GST government on the basis of GST Council notify supplier of the certain goods or the services or both where no refund is utilized, where no refund of unutilized ITC on the account of inverted duty structure is allowed. Means the government restrict the refund of unutilized amount of ITC for refund. For example, there is the supply of construction of complex service. There is the supply of construction of complex service which are specified in para 5B of schedule 2 of CGST Act. Rail locomotives powered from an external source of electricity or by electricity accumulators. However, it is clarified that this restriction, however, it is clarified that this restriction on the refund of unutilized ITC of GST paid on input is not applicable in the case of zero rated supply of specific goods or services. However, it is clarified that this restriction on refund this restriction on refund of unutilized ITC of GST paid on inputs is not applicable in case of zero rated supply of specific goods or specific services. Not applicable on the zero rated supply of specific goods or specific services. Is that export of goods or export of services or both? And number two, supply of said goods or said services or both to SEZ developer and to SEZ units. To SEZ developer and to SEZ units. Now we will discuss the application form for claiming the refund. What will be the application form for claiming the refund of unutilized items or claiming the refund of any or from any of the source? Means now we will discuss application form for claiming the ITC for claiming the refund. The application for refund in the case shall be filed in form RDF01. The application for the refund in such cases shall be filed in form RFD01. This is the form number RFD01 for claiming the refund. Time limit for claiming the refund. Time limits for claiming the refund. Refund claim on the account of inverted duty structure. The claim refund on the account of inverted duty structure is required to be made, or it is required to be filed within 2 years from the date of furnishing the return under section 39 for the period in which such claim for refund arises. Is that the refund claim on the account of inverted duty, on the account of inverted duty structure is required to be filed. It is required to be filed within the period of 2 years from the due date, for furnishing of return under section 39 of the period in which such claim for refund arises. However, in case where the refund claim arises on account of accumulated ITC in case of exported goods or services or both, which is made against letter of undertaking, bonds without the payment of IGST, then the refund can be claimed within 2 years. Then the refund can be claimed within the 2 years from the relevant date. And the relevant date is already covered by us in our part 1. In In our previous class, we have already covered the definition and the meaning of relevant date. The relevant date is differ in differ situation. So, if where there is the amount of refund and the amount of the refund is arise on the account of accumulated ITC in case of export of goods, export of services, or both, which is made against letter of undertaking, and bonds, means without the payment of IGST, then the refund can be claimed within the period of 2 years. The amount of the refund can be claimed within the period of 2 years from the relevant date. Relevant date would be determined in the accordance with relevant provision of explanation 2 of section 54. Now we will discuss doctrine of unjust enrichment not applicable. Now we will discuss where the doctrine of unjust enrichment is not applicable. In such cases, the refundable amount shall, instead of being credited to the consumer welfare account, consumer welfare fund, to pay to the creditors, to pay to the applicant. Is that there are some cases in these cases, the amount of the refund will be credited to the applicant account, means it will be paid to the applicant in place of transfer to consumer welfare account. In other words, we can say that the provision or the concept of doctrine of unjust enrichment is not applicable in following cases. The provision of doctrine of unjust enrichment is not applicable in the following cases. Number in the following cases. Number one, and all these cases are already covered by us in our previous class. In our previous class, we have already discussed where the amount where the amount will be directly transferred to applicant account. Just like when there is zero rated supply, when there is the supply of goods, supply of services, or both to SEZ developer or to SEZ units, and when there is a refund of unutilized ITC, and so on. The point we have already covered where the provision of unjust enrichment is not applicable. Now we will discuss the amount which is to be claimed as refund. Now we will discuss the amount which is to be claimed, as refund. Rule 89 Subrule 4 Rule 89 Subrule 4 stipulates that in the case of zero rated supply of goods, services, or both, without the payment of tax under bond or under the LUT, in the accordance with provision of section 16 subsection 3 of IGST Act 2017, refund of ITC shall be granted as per the following formula. Is that when there is the zero rated supply of goods, supply of services, or both, without the payment of IGST. In this case, the amount of the ITC shall be determined on the basis of following formula. The refund of ITC is to be determined on the basis of following formula. refund amount is equal to refund amount is equal to turnover of zero rated supply of goods, turnover of zero rated supply of goods plus turnover of zero rated supply of services. Turnover of zero rated supply of goods plus turnover of zero rated supply of services divided by adjusted total turnover, divided by adjusted total turnover into net ITC, into net ITC. This is the this is the calculation of refund amount. Calculation of refund amount, where refund amount means the maximum refund that is admissible. Refund amount means the amount of refund which is admissible. Net ITC means ITC which is availed on input and input services during the relevant period. Net ITC means the input tax credit which is availed on input and input services during the relevant period other than ITC, which is availed for which refund is claimed under rule 4A and 4B or both. Turnover of the zero rated supply of goods is the value of turnover of zero rated supply of goods is the value of zero rated supply of goods which is made during the relevant period without the payment of tax. Turnover of zero rated supply of goods is the value of zero rated supply of goods which is made during the relevant period without the payment of tax under the LUT or under the bond, or the value which is 1.5 times of value of like goods, 1.5 times of the value of like good which is domestically supplied by the same or similarly placed supplier as declared by the supplier as declared by the supplier, whichever is less. Means the value of the turnover of zero rated supply of goods is the value which is the value of zero rated supply of goods which is made during the relevant period without the payment of tax under bond or letter of undertaking, or the value, or it may be the value of value which is it is the value which is 1.5 times of value of like goods which is which is domestically supplied by the supplier or similarly placed supplier as declared by the supplier, whichever is less other than turnover of supply in the respect of which refund is claimed under sub-rule 4A and sub-rule 4B or both. Turnover of zero rated supply of service means turnover of zero rated supply of service means the value of zero rated supply of service which is made without payment of tax, which is made without the payment of tax under bond or annuity, which is calculated in the following manner, zero rated supply of service is the aggregate of zero rated supply of service is the aggregate of the payment which is received during the relevant period for zero rated supply of service or zero rated supply of services where supply has been completed, for which the payment has been received in advance, where the payment has been received in advance in any period prior to the relevant period, reduced by the advance, and such amount will be reduced by the amount which is received for zero rated supply of services for which the supply of service has not been completed during the period. Means we will take the total aggregate payment which is received in the relevant period for the zero rated supply of services, and we will less the amount of advance, we will reduce the amount of the advance which is received in the respect of zero rated supply, in the respect of zero rated supply of services for which supply of service has not been completed during the relevant period. Adjusted total turnover means, what is the meaning of adjusted total turnover? The sum total of the value. Adjusted total turnover means sum of number one, the turnover in the state or in union territory as defined under section 2 subsection 112, excluding turnover of supply. The turnover in the state, turnover in the union territory as defined under section 2 subsection 112, excluding turnover and turnover of services, and the turnover of zero rated supply of services, the turnover of zero rated supply of services which is determined in the term of clause D, the turnover of zero rated supply of service which is determined in the term of clause D above, and non-zero rated supply of services, excluding the value of exempt services, the value of exempt supplies other than zero rated supply, exclude the value of exempt supply other than zero rated supply, and the turnover of supplies in the respect of which the refund is claimed. The refund is claimed under sub rule 4A or subrule 4B or both, if any, during the relevant period. So this is the definition of adjusted total turnover. And the relevant period means the period for which the refund has been filed. Relevant period means the period for which the refund has been filed. Rule 89 Subrule 4A. Rule 89 Subrule 4A stipulates that in the case of supply which is received on which the supplier has availed the benefit of deemed export, he is availing the benefit of deemed export, refund of the ITC which is availed in the respect of other input and input services which is used in making zero rated supply of goods, zero rated supply of services, or both shall be granted. Rule 89 4B. Rule 89 4B stipulates that where the person who is claiming the refund of unutilized ITC. Rule 89 4B stipulates that where the person who is claiming refund of unutilized ITC on account of zero rated supply without the payment of tax has received supplies on which the manufacturer supplier has availed the benefit of supply of goods to the merchant export at the concessional rate of 0.1% or availed the benefit of exception from IGST and compensation cess in the respect of goods which are imported by EOU or for the goods imported under advance authorization EPCG, the refund of ITC which is availed in the respect of inputs which are received under the said notification for the export of goods, and input tax credit which is availed in the respect of other inputs or input services to the extent which is used in making such export of goods as may be granted as shall be granted. Rule 89 sub rule 5. Rule 89 sub rule 5 stipulates that in the case of refund on account of inverted duty structure, stipulated that in case in case the in case of refund on account of inverted duty structure, refund of ITC shall be granted. The refund of ITC shall be granted as per the following formula. Maximum refund amount. Maximum refund amount. Turnover of inverted related supply. Turnover of inverted related supply of goods, services into net ITC. Into the net ITC. Divided by adjusted total turnover minus tax which is payable on such inverted related supply of goods or services. So, on the basis of such formula, we can determine the maximum refund value, where net ITC means where the net ITC means ITC which is availed on input during the relevant period other than ITC which is availed for which refund is claimed under sub rules 4A or sub rules 4B or both. And adjusted total turnover and the relevant period means which has been defined in sub rule 4 above, means it is similar to the sub rule 4 which is already defined. Now we will discuss the refund of ITC under section 54.3 restricted to the extent of credit reflected in Form GSTR 2A. Now we will discuss the refund of ITC under Section 54, subsection 3, restricted to the extent of credit which is reflected in Form GSTR 2A. In wake up of insertion of sub rule 4 of rule 36, sub rule 4 of rule 36, it has been decided that the refund of accumulated ITC, the refund of accumulated ITC shall be restricted, it shall be restricted to the ITC as per those invoices, as per those invoices, the detail of which the detail of which are the detail of which are uploaded by the supplier, the detail of which are uploaded by the supplier in form GSTR1 or GSTR1 and are reflected in the form GSTR2A of the applicant. GSTR1 of the supplier and GSTR2A in GSTR2A of applicant. It will be uploaded or it will be reflected. Now we will discuss the determination of refundable amount in the case of refund of unutilized ITC on account of export without the payment of tax. Determination of refund amount in the case of refund of unutilized ITC on account of number 1, exports without the payment of tax, number 2, supply made by the SEZ unit, SEZ developer without the payment of tax, or accumulation due to the inverted tax structure. Accumulation due to the inverted tax structure. In case of refund of unutilized input tax credit on account of number 1, export without the payment of tax, number 2, supply which is made to SEZ unit or SEZ developer without the payment of tax, or accumulation due to the inverted tax structure. The common portal accumulates the refundable amount as the least of the following amount, as the least of the following amount. Number 1, the maximum refund amount as per the above formula. The maximum refund amount as per the above formula, which is specified in Rule 89 sub Rule 4 or Rule 89 sub Rule 5. The maximum refund amount as per the above formula, which is already discussed, 89 sub rule 4 and 89 sub rule 5 is already discussed by us. Formula is applied on the consolidated amount of ITC. It is a calculated or consolidated amount of ITC. Is that central tax plus state tax plus plus integrated tax. Number 2, the balance in the electronic credit ledger, the balance in the electronic credit ledger of the applicant at the end of tax period for which the refund claim is being filed after the refund in the form of GSTR 3B for the said period has been filed, and balance in the electronic credit ledger of the applicant at the time of filing of refund application. So we will calculate the, or we will show the balance of electronic credit ledger. We will check the balance of electronic, then the refundable amount will be the least of the following. Which is the least amount will be considered as refundable amount. After calculating the least of the above three amounts as detailed above, when we will calculate the least amount, then the equivalent amount is to be debited from the electronic credit ledger of the applicant in the following order. Means the amount of the refundable amount, it will be debited from the electronic credit ledger of the applicant in the following order. Integrated tax to the extent of balance available. Integrated tax to the extent of balance available. Number two, central tax and state tax, union territory tax equally to the extent of balance, equally to the extent of balance available, and in the event of shortfall in the balance available in the particular electronic credit list, the differential amount is to be debited from the other electronic credit ledger. Now we will discuss the cases where the refund is not allowed. Where the refund is not allowed. Cases where the refund is not allowed under the GST. Refund of unutilized ITC shall not be allowed if the goods exported out of India are subject to the export duty. Means the refund of unutilized ITC shall not be allowed if the goods exported outside India are subject to the export duty. Number two, refund of ITC shall not be allowed. The refund of ITC shall not be allowed if the supplier of goods or supplier of service or both avail the drawback in the respect of CGST or claims refund of IGST, which is paid on the supply. The refund of ITC shall not be allowed if the supplier of goods or supplier of service or both avails of drawback in the respect of CGST or claims refund of the IGST, which is paid on such a supplier. Thus, if the supplier claims, if the supplier claims refund of accumulated ITC in the case of zero rated supply without the payment of tax, then he can avail drawback of only basic custom duty. Then he can avail the drawback of only basic custom duty and cannot claim drawback of any of the tax under the GST. He cannot take the drawback of any of the tax under the GST. He can take only the drawback of basic custom duty. In other words, a supplier who is availing the drawback of only basic custom duty shall be eligible for the refund of unutilized ITC. Is that if the supplier availing the duty drawback of only basic custom duty, then he shall be eligible for the refund of unutilized ITC of central tax, state tax or union territory tax, integrated tax, compensation cess under the said provision. It is further clarified that the refund of eligible credit on the account of state tax shall be available even if the supplier has availed the drawback in the respect of central tax. In the respect of central tax, it is further clarified that refund of eligible credit on the account of state tax shall be available even if the supplier has availed of due to drawback in the respect of central tax. So, on the basis of such discussion, we have completed the part 3 of such a refund concept, in which we have discussed the ITC which is not available. The ITC, oh sorry, the refund of unutilized ITC when it is not available. And we have also discussed some other important and the relevant concept relating to the refund. So, thank you so much for watching this video. Okay, bye bye and have a nice day.